The day I learned my entire life was a lie, and my family tried to bury the truth. Hi everyone. Thank you for being here. My name's Emily, and before I start I want to make something clear. I am not someone who chases drama. I am not a thrill seeker. I've always been a keep your head down, mind your business kind of person. I like quiet mornings, coffee with too much sugar, my cat Milo curling up on my lap while I read. I like knowing where I come from. I like knowing. What I'm about to tell you shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. This is the story of a secret my family kept from me for over 25 years. A secret they buried so deep that it took losing my mother to even get a glimpse of the truth. And once I started digging, there was no going back. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The sky was the dull gray of late November. I remember thinking how much I hated that kind of weather. The kind that makes everything feel like it's been drained of color. I was at work, answering emails when my phone buzzed. It was my brother, Jake. Now Jake and I don't really call each other during the day. If we text, it's usually something quick. A meme, what time is dinner on Sunday, kind of thing. So seeing his name flash on my screen in the middle of the afternoon, it felt wrong before I even picked up. Hey Jake. Emily. His voice was tight. Too tight. You need to come home. Now. What happened? Is Dad? It's Mom, he cut in. She collapsed. She's gone. I remember standing up so fast my chair fell backward. My coworkers were looking at me, their faces blurred like I was underwater. She's what? They're taking her now. Just come home. When I pulled into our driveway, the first thing I saw was the ambulance and the sheet over the gurney. I don't remember getting out of the car. I don't remember walking to the porch. I just remember my dad standing there, staring at nothing, his hands hanging uselessly at his sides. It was a brain aneurysm. Instant. No pain, the doctor said, like that was supposed to make me feel better. It didn't. The days after were a blur. Neighbors dropped off casseroles, flowers filled every corner of the house. I kept thinking how strange it was. The world doesn't stop when your mom dies. People still drive to work. Kids still laugh in the street. The mail still comes. And through all of it, there was this undercurrent in my dad and Jake, like they were keeping something from me. I chalked it up to grief. At the time. A week after the funeral, I went into my parents' bedroom to start packing up Mom's clothes for donation. I didn't want to. Every sweater still smelled like her perfume. I kept pausing to bury my face in them, trying to memorize that scent before it faded. Then I noticed the closet. Not the obvious space, the far back corner, behind a stack of old blankets. There was something shoved way back there. I had to get down on my knees and practically crawl inside to reach it. An old shoebox taped shut. I sat on the floor and started peeling away the yellow tape. Inside were a few things. A faded baby blanket, a stack of Polaroids. Me as a baby smiling toothlessly at the camera, sitting in someone's lap. Except it wasn't my mom's lap. The woman in the photos had dark hair and hazel eyes. And then the thing that made my stomach drop. My birth certificate. Only under mother. It didn't say my mom's name. It said Claire Whitmore. I blinked at it, certain I was misreading it. But no. The letters were clear. The paper was official. And under father, there was my dad's name. I put it down and picked up the letters. They were all addressed to me. Happy first birthday, my sweet girl. I hope you're smiling today. You took your first steps this week. I wish I could have been there. One day you'll understand why this happened. I love you always. By the time I reached the last one, I couldn't see through my tears. Who the hell was Claire Whitmore? And why was she listed as my mother? That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the name Claire Whitmore looping in my head like a broken record. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the photos, that woman holding me like I was the most precious thing in the world. By 1:30 a.m., I gave up on trying to rest. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I padded barefoot into the kitchen, and there was Jake, sitting at the table in pajama pants and an old hoodie, eating cereal straight from the box like he always did when he couldn't sleep. I didn't even say hello. I just slid the birth certificate across the table toward him. Explain this. He looked down, chewed, swallowed, then his eyes flicked to mine, and I swear I saw something, panic, guilt, something sharp and fleeting before he looked away. Where'd you get that? He asked, his voice low. From Mom's closet, I said, crossing my arms. Who is Claire Whitmore? Jake's spoon clinked against the side of the bowl. He pushed the cereal away and rubbed his face with both hands. I can't talk about this, he muttered. Just drop it, okay? Drop it. My voice rose without my permission. Jake, this is my birth certificate. Says some stranger is my mother. Why would I drop it? He shook his head. You don't understand. Then make me understand. I snapped. I just buried Mom, Jake, and now I find out she wasn't even my mom? What the hell is going on? His jaw tightened. Please just leave it alone. You're not ready for the truth. I stared at him, stunned. Not ready? I'm 26 years old, Jake. I think I can handle it. He stood, took his bowl to the sink without another word, and left the kitchen. That I was shaking, and more determined than ever to get answers. The next morning, Dad was at the dining table sorting through bills, his reading glasses perched low on his nose. I set the letters down in front of him. He froze mid-reach for his coffee, staring at the envelopes like they were snakes. "She told me she'd take it to her grave," he said finally, almost to himself. "Who?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. He sighed and took off his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Your mother. The one who raised you." My pulse spiked. "So, she wasn't my biological mother?" Dad's shoulders slumped. "No, Claire was. She and we were together before I met your mom. Things didn't work out. She left when you were little. Your mom, the woman you knew, stepped in and raised you as her own." It felt like my stomach dropped to the floor. "She left? That's it? She just walked away from me?" His eyes darted away. "It's complicated. You wouldn't understand." My hands curled into fists. "Then make me understand." He shook his head. "No good will come from digging into this, Emily. Just let it go. Your mother, the one who raised you, loved you more than anything. That's what matters." I wanted to scream. Instead, I picked up the letters, shoved them back into their envelope, and walked away. But inside, I made a promise to myself. I would not let this go. Over the next week, I became a detective. During lunch breaks, I sat in the dusty back corner of the local library with stacks of old newspapers spread in front of me. I scrolled through digital archives until my eyes burned. I dug through public records at the town hall, and then, there it was. A tiny 2-sentence police blotter from 25 years ago. Local woman Claire Whitmore reported missing. Last seen near Harbor Point. Investigation ongoing. Missing. Not moved away. Not relocated. Missing. The date on the article was less than 2 weeks after my first birthday. When I showed Dad, expecting shock or confusion, I got anger. "You have no idea what you're messing with," he snapped, slamming his hand on the table so hard my coffee spilled. "What does that mean?" I demanded. "It means," he said through clenched teeth, "you drop this now or you'll regret it." And that was the moment I knew whatever this was, it was big. And my own father was standing in the way of me finding out. In the weeks following that bizarre discovery, I couldn't focus on anything else. At work, I'd find myself staring at my computer screen, not even realizing the clock had jumped ahead 2 hours. At night, I'd toss and turn, replaying the same questions in my head. That if that woman in the photograph wasn't my mother, then who was she? And more importantly, why had nobody ever mentioned her to me? I tried confronting Mom again, this time armed with more than just curiosity, but every attempt went the same way. She'd suddenly find a reason to leave the room or shift the conversation to something completely irrelevant, like the weather or a new recipe she wanted to tea. Or what it wasn't until one evening, after a glass of wine, that she let something slip. I was washing the dishes, and she was sitting at the kitchen table scrolling through her phone when she sighed and said under her breath, "It's not your fault, you know. None of it was your fault." My hands froze mid-wash. "What do you mean?" I asked. She looked up like a deer caught in headlights, clearly not expecting me to hear her. She shook her head quickly. "Nothing. Forget I said anything." But I couldn't forget. That sentence replayed in my mind for days. Not my fault? What wasn't my fault? The next weekend, I decided to go visit Aunt Rachel, Dad's younger sister. Someone I'd always been close to. I figured if anyone would be willing to spill the truth, it would be her. When I arrived, she welcomed me with her usual warm smile. But as soon as I mentioned the photograph and Mom's strange behavior, her face paled. She led me to the living room, closed the curtains, and sat across from me. "Sweetheart," she began, "I've wanted to tell you this for years, but your parents made me promise I wouldn't. I still think it's wrong, but I kept my word until now." I leaned forward, my heart pounding in my ears. Rachel took a deep breath. "The woman in that photograph was your biological mother." The words hit me like a physical blow. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My brain scrambled to make sense of it. What happened to her?" I finally asked. Rachel's eyes welled up. "She died when you were just 2 years old. It was sudden. A car accident. Your father was devastated. He met your stepmother, the woman you've always known as Mom, about a year later." My mind was spinning. "So everyone just decided not to tell me?" Rachel nodded painfully. "They thought it would protect you. They wanted you to have a normal childhood without the trauma. But I always believed you had the right to know." I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or laugh at the absurdity. The foundation of my life, everything I thought I knew about my own family, was a lie. And yet, somewhere deep down, there was something even stranger gnawing at me. A gut feeling that Rachel wasn't telling me everything. After leaving Aunt Rachel's house, I couldn't stop thinking. Something about this didn't add up. Every memory, every photograph, every casual comment from Dad and Jake now felt like it had been carefully placed to hide something. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed the images of the woman in the photographs, the letters in the box, and the words Aunt Rachel had whispered. Your biological mother, she died. I decided to go back through Mom's things, the old boxes in the garage that I hadn't touched while it was late. The house was silent, and the only sound was the soft creak of the floorboards beneath my feet. I rummaged through a stack of old newspapers and found a thin folder with yellowed clippings. One headline stopped me cold. Young woman killed in Harbor Point collision. I read the details, my stomach twisting. The report mentioned a dark sedan seen just before the crash, cutting across the road and forcing the victim to swerve. The driver fled. No one was ever caught. My hands trembled as I realized the car description matched the sedan my stepmother had owned years ago. Could it be a coincidence? I didn't think so. The next morning I confronted Aunt Rachel again. This time I laid the clipping on the table in front of her. Her hand shook slightly as she reached for it. I think it's time you knew everything, she said quietly. That day your stepmother was there. She saw everything. But she didn't tell the police the full story. My heart skipped. What do you mean? I demanded. Rachel hesitated, then whispered. She was driving that green sedan. She caused your mother to lose control. I felt my world tilt. My stepmother, the woman who had loved and raised me, could have been responsible for my mother's death. But then Rachel added something that made my stomach drop even further. The silence all these years, it wasn't to protect you. It was to protect her. I sank into the chair, feeling dizzy. Everything I had believed about my family, about safety, love, trust, was crumbling around me. I couldn't wait another night. My chest felt tight with anger, fear, and confusion. I needed answers now. When I got home, she was in the kitchen, sipping her usual cup of chamomile tea, calm and composed like nothing had happened. I slammed the newspaper clipping onto the table. Explain this, I demanded. She looked at it, her hand shaking just a fraction. You've been talking to Rachel, she said flatly. Yes, I said. I know about the accident. I know about the green sedan. I know you were there. Her eyes widened slightly, then narrowed. You're assuming a lot, she said, her voice eerily calm. No assumptions. Facts. Photographs, police reports, witnesses. It's all pointing at you. She stared at me for what felt like an eternity, her lips pressed tightly together. Then she sighed, looking defeated. Fine, she whispered. I'll tell you the truth, but you need to understand. It's not as simple as it looks. I sat, waiting, barely breathing. She took a deep breath. Yes, I was driving the car that day, but I didn't hit her. I didn't cause her death. Not directly. I followed her because I found out something about your father. Something dangerous. Something that could have hurt her. I wanted to warn her, to protect her. I blinked, trying to process. She saw me following her. She panicked. Swerved. Lost control. The truck, the crash. I couldn't stop it. I didn't mean for her to die. And then I stayed. I raised you because I couldn't face your father. I couldn't face you. I prayed you'd never find out. Her eyes filled with tears. I made mistakes, huge mistakes. But I loved you. I did what I thought was right, even if it looks terrible now. I felt a storm of emotions. Anger, relief, confusion, betrayal, love. All crashing into each other. Could I hate her? Could I forgive her? I didn't know. And then came the part that stunned me completely. She wasn't just your mother, she said quietly, almost as if she feared saying it aloud. She was part of something bigger. Something your father tried to hide. And the accident, it wasn't an accident. Someone wanted her gone. That day was never supposed to happen by chance. I froze. What do you mean? I whispered. You don't know the half of it, she said. And neither do you know the people still watching. Be careful, Emily. The truth. It can be dangerous. A week later, I received a message from a stranger. Her name was Hannah. She had hazel eyes, the same color I saw in the mirror every morning, and a soft, nervous smile in her profile picture. I think we're sisters. I've been looking for you for years. Please don't ignore this. My heart jumped. Could this be real? Could there actually be someone out there related to me who knew about all of this? We agreed to meet at a small cafe downtown. The kind of place with mismatched chairs, the smell of coffee beans, and soft jazz playing in the background. When she saw me, she froze for a second. Then her eyes filled with tears that I felt the same. I had never seen her before, and yet, she looked like me. We sat down and she slid a photo across the table. It was my mother, Claire. Older, with streaks of silver in her dark hair, smiling softly at the camera. I knew immediately this was her. Alive. Hannah took a deep breath. She's been hiding, she said. She had to. What happened back then, it wasn't an accident. She witnessed something dangerous, something that could have hurt all of us. She went into hiding to stay alive. I swallowed hard, trying to make sense of it. So all these years, she was alive. Yes, Hannah said. And she's been waiting for the right time to reach out. She didn't want you or Dad in danger, but she wanted you to know the truth eventually. I felt my chest tighten. So, everything my dad said, everything my stepmother hid, it was all connected? Hannah nodded. There are people who wanted your mother gone. She saw too much. Your stepmother, she was forced into silence too. Everyone was trying to protect you, but in the wrong ways. I leaned back, overwhelmed by life. Everything I thought I knew was unraveling. Hannah reached out and touched my hand. You're not alone in this. And you deserve to know the truth. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe now, finally, I could start putting the pieces together. After meeting Hannah, everything started to come together. Like a puzzle I hadn't realized I was solving, that I went back home, determined to confront my father and stepmother again. This time, armed with everything I had learned. Dad was in the study, flipping through old files. I placed Hannah's messages and the newspaper clipping on the desk. He looked at me, his face pale. I see you've been digging, he said quietly. Yes, I said, my voice shaking. I've spoken to Rachel. I've met Hannah. I know about Claire, about the accident, about the people who wanted her gone. I know everything, Dad. He sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead. You think you know everything, Emily. But there are parts you're not ready for. I slammed my hand on the desk. I've been lied to my entire life. I deserve to know. No more hiding. He closed his eyes, then began to speak slowly. Claire, your mother, she stumbled upon something at her old job. Something illegal, dangerous. People tried to silence her. The accident, it was more than coincidence. Your stepmother wasn't guilty, not directly. She was scared, caught in it all like the rest of us. I could barely breathe. Then why lie for so long? To protect you, he whispered. We all made mistakes. But protecting you was always our priority. I turned to my stepmother. She stood in the doorway, her face pale but resolute. I did what I had to do, she said. I raised you because I loved you. I stayed silent because I feared for your life. I thought if you never knew, you'd be safe. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Hannah arrived, tears in her eyes. She looked at me, then at everyone else. We can't undo the past, she said. But now we know. And maybe we can finally fix this together. I felt a strange mix of anger, relief, and hope. For the first time in my life, I saw a path forward. A way to face the truth, face my family, and finally breathe that it wasn't going to be easy. Forgiveness wouldn't be instant. The scars of betrayal, secrecy, and fear would take time to heal. But at least now, the secrets weren't controlling me anymore. I was ready to reclaim my life. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The weeks after the revelations were surreal. I spent hours talking with Hannah, sharing memories, comparing stories, and trying to fill in the blanks of our separate lives. She was my sister, biologically, undeniably, but also someone I had never truly known. And my father slowly opened up, answering questions I didn't even realize I had. Each story he told was like adding another piece to the puzzle, helping me understand the sacrifices, the lies, and the fear that had shaped our family. My stepmother, too, began to reveal herself, not just as the woman who raised me, but as a person who had been forced into impossible choices. I could see her remorse, but also her humanity. She wanted forgiveness, but more than that, she wanted reconciliation. One quiet evening, the five of us, Dad, my stepmother, Jake, Hannah, and I sat together at the dinner table. It felt strange at first, like we were learning to speak to each other for the first time. But slowly, conversation flowed. Laughter came in small bursts. Old wounds didn't vanish, but they started to soften. Hannah looked at me and smiled. I can't believe it took all this to bring us together, she said. I know, I replied. But at least we're together now. That's what matters. For the first time in decades, I felt a sense of peace. The secrets that had haunted our family no longer had power over us. We still had challenges ahead, difficult conversations and long healing processes, but we had each other. And that was enough. I realized that family isn't just about blood or lies or mistakes. It's about the bonds we choose to honor, the trust we rebuild, and the love we allow ourselves to feel, even after betrayal. And in that moment, I finally understood something important. The truth can hurt, can shatter the world you thought you knew, but it can also set you free. I leaned back in my chair, looking at the faces around me. For the first time in a long time, I smiled genuinely. Because even after the darkest secrets, even after years of silence and fear, family could survive. And maybe, just maybe, it could thrive again.